Hello and welcome along to the VMTV Rugby Pod. Ireland, Alan are in Rome this weekend. Team's just been named. James Ryan as captain. Plenty of changes. What do you make of the side?
It's a very strong side, Stuart. I think I never envisaged Andy Farrell making a huge number of changes. And, obviously he's shown the Italians a lot of respect by picking a very, very strong side. Greg Casey coming in adds that bit of extra zip, a different dynamic, and Jack Conan as well coming into the back row gives him an opportunity because I think I was thinking about that one. You think if there was an injury in the back row, it's a real confidence booster and an opportunity for Jack Conan as well. He's a quality player and he's played very well. People mentioning his form a little bit since he came back from that Lions tour, but he's still a top player. And Bundyaki needs game time as well. So I think it's no great surprises at all, but it's a very strong side. And I think that's a really important part of this because I'm sure the Italians will be really targeting this game and going after Ireland.
Yeah, Matt, just bringing you in there. So much strength and depth there. Casey and Byrne getting their first championship start. So it's a big afternoon for those two men at halfback.
Huge afternoon, Stu. And Andy Farrell must be so pleased with this circumstance. He's got 6 of his automatic starting team out. So Furlong, Healy, Todd Byrne, Jamison Gibson Park, Sexton and Robbie Henshaw. Now, all those 6 would be in match day 23 with the exception of Healy. They'd all be starting. Healy would be on the bench. So this gives him an opportunity to play 6 other players, which is starting to bring experience of test match players in World Cup year up to the number 30. I mean, that's fantastic for the long term. And Farrell can also say, I'm picking my best team. Ryan Baird gets his chance, all that, and all the things that Quinny said. But especially at 9 and 10, we're giving Ross Byrne really valuable match time to start a Six Nations game. And we're also giving Craig Casey another opportunity to learn and to get better. And he is getting better. He's improving as a player. And we all players get more comfortable in the international environment, the more chance you get them. And, look, I've got to say, I'm particularly pleased for Ross. He's a guy I've admired. I felt he's been very harshly done by over the last World Cup cycle. And I think it's a great lesson to us all that you haven't heard the young man complain once. He hasn't blamed anyone else. He hasn't said anything. He's just got on with the job, and he's allowed his playing to do the talking. When he came on against France, the look on his face was fantastic. He was determined. He was absolutely determined that he was going to make that 20 minutes absolutely change his career. And to Ross's credit, he has, and he deserves everything his selection there today, and everything he gets is from it. I hope he does so well with a relationship with Casey. We know he's got Bundyaki. And the rest of that three-quarter line, it would start most tests. So it is a very, very good selection. The other thing that's fantastic is Beelan has proved he's good enough, and Tom O'Toole gets another chance. There's just winnings on every front here for Ireland on the selection and for Andy Farrell. And again, I think this is a really strong team that Quinny said. And you can't, like Australia and Wales proved you can't pick a second 15 and go out and think you're going to win, because Italy have improved. And so I think it's a plus for everyone.
Matt, I'm just going to stay with you because you've always been a big advocate of Ross Byrne. Why have you always rated him so highly? And do you think he obviously has improved, but what areas do you think he's improved the most over the last couple of years?
I think there's 2 things to the Ross Byrne story. One, he is in the Leinster system, and the Irish attack is basically the Leinster attack. It is very much structured around Leinster because the vast majority of players in the team are Leinster players. And I think that is a very smart play. So Ross is used to that system. Now, Joey he played in a very different system for a number of years down at Munster. The second part is that Ross is doing what Joey's not. And as a 10, there's 2 things you have to do. You have to vary your depth depending on where you want to attack. So the flatter you are, the more pressure you put on yourself. So the attack's one pass around you, and the deeper you are, the easier it is. And Joey is too deep a lot of the time. And the second part is, if you are taking the ball on an angle, you've got to straighten up before you pass. You've got to get your hips square with the try line. And you often hear coaches and backs talk about squaring up. That's what we mean. If you're running across field when you accept the ball, you've got to square up, because then you become a threat to the defenders. A defender has to focus on you. So even if you pass, you take a defender out of the system. And Sexton is the master at it across the globe. He's one of the best I've ever seen. Mark Ella is the best I ever saw. He just did it. He never got across field. He was just square the whole time. He was a nightmare to play against, but brilliant to watch. And Sexton is his equal as far as that is concerned. Sexton does it brilliantly. And that's what Ross is getting better at. Taking the ball to the line, being square. When he's at that outlet player out the back, he gets the ball and he squares up before he passes. So he becomes a threat. And, you can just see at Leinster when they play that play, and then the player running off, usually Ringrose, running a short line, or he's got out the back to Hugo Coonan. If he doesn't square up, that play doesn't work. And because he squares up and attracts a defender, it works. It's as simple as that. And the other part to Ross, I think he's just a really lovely guy. I think he's a really gentle person. And sometimes nice guys come last. And the look on his face, he got angry against France. And he's got to take, you don't have to be rude, but you've got to have an edge to you. And I think he's developed a bit more of that edge.
Quinny, nice guys never come last. You never did. What about Aki outside him? He's there to
That's
help.
why he was always first.
Nice off the field, but you have to.
You were Quinny. You were Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You always have been. Mate, cross that line, it was a different world.
Yeah, well, you still got to keep your control. But look, as Matt said, his composure is good. I think his attitude has been really good, and that's important. But I think Bundy Aki outside him is really important for Ireland. He has been for a long number of years now, and I think he obviously needs game time. He needs a good performance. He needs to lead from the front, and bring a real kind of bring the quality that we know he has. Stuart McCluskey's done very well there. I'm sure Stuart McCluskey would have loved to have started this game as well. But again, as Matt said, it's looking at different variations and possibilities, that things that may happen at the World Cup, and you may have a few injuries in certain positions. And it's like I say about Jack Conan as well. It's reigniting his bit of confidence and self-belief. He doesn't have to go out. Neither of them have to go out and have star performances. They just got to do their job really well and show their quality. Same for Ian Henderson in the second row, because he's a very, very experienced player. He's had issues with injuries and disappointments, I suppose, with the run that Ulster had before Christmas and around the Christmas time. He still has a lot to offer Ireland, and he brings great experience into the second row. So a lot of experience. Those three changes, they're players that I'm sure will want to prove a point and remind people of what they can do and how good they can be for Ireland. And it's going to be a very physical game. I always remember, for any time I was involved in an Irish squad against Italy, that you're going to get emotion, you're going to get passion, you're going to get physicality, and you've got to be patient. So if you go out, and this is probably going off the point a little bit, but if Ireland go out on Saturday and think they can just run around and be nice and comfortable against Italy, that's the rock they'll perish on. You've got to work incredibly hard, and you've got to stress them and match that physicality, or even bring some more. So it's another intriguing kind of test for Ireland, even though they're expected to win the game and it's a strong Irish side. But Italy at times can make it really difficult. And that experience, and Ross Byrne as well, for him, it would be brilliant for the Irish depth chart around that 10 position to take his chance now and perform well. You think back to the times he played for Ireland, which was warm-ups for the World Cup and post-World Cup and the Six Nations, and you think of the two England games, it was a difficult situation. The whole team were struggling, and England were very, very forceful against him. So he's a quality player, and he gets a great opportunity now to enhance himself again on Saturday.
And Matt, an outside centre, Guy Ringrose, in the form of his career, he's 50th appearance for him, so it's going to be special again.
Yeah, Gary's a fabulous player. How fortunate have Ireland been probably over the last, getting on the 20 years, you had the O'Driscoll era, and Brian was without peer, in my opinion, in modern rugby as an outside centre, certainly in Ireland, and he's in the discussion of the all-time greats in that position. And then we get someone of Ringrose's quality as well. I think the feature, having coached Brian, I think he's the best sliding defender I've ever seen, closely followed by Jason Little, the great Queensland Australian outside centre. I happened to coach Jason at the Waratahs for a year. That their ability to read defence and make something that is so hard. So you've got three attackers and there's you and a winger, and you've got to solve the problem. And Brian used to make that look so easy. Ringrose does the same. Ringrose is just such a good reader of defence. Now, let's forget about his attack, but his defence, and when we say defend, there's defending and then there's tackling. So you defend to make a tackle. You get yourself in a position to make a tackle and tackle the right person, and then you go through with the tackle. I think that's, to me, his greatest feature. And I think in recent years, I was having a chat with Gordy Darcy about this, obviously one of the Ireland's all-time great inside centres. And Gary always had an outside break. He was, he'd burn people with his pace. But what I think he's really learnt and mastered over the last few years is his ability to tack the inside shoulder. So he goes out first and in, which is, again, what O'Driscoll would do. O'Driscoll would be running outside shoulder, and the defender would go with him, and then he'd change to inside shoulder before he got the ball. And Gary is doing the same thing. It's why he's making a lot of those breaks where you see him coming back towards the post from the outside centre position. A really fabulous player. And again, as we talk about Gary and Ross Byrne, there's a relationship they have. They've had a lot of time together, understand each other. And the last part, I think, just to add on Quinny's point about Ross and the backs, when the back line goes well, we used to always say in the amateur days, when you were a 10 and I was, go and buy your forwards a beer after the game. Because if you had a good game, it's because of them. If the forwards lay down the platform, it makes it easier. Ross Byrne suffered at Twickenham 4 years ago because his pack got bashed up. Now on Saturday, if the pack don't lay down that foundation that Alan referred to, the physicality and the set plays and the ball running that the Italians are bringing now, we won't get to see that electric attack that we know the Irish team have. So it still comes down to the forwards laying down that platform for Byrne and Ringrose to bring out and Bundyaki to bring out what we know they can.
Alan, what is a good day for Ireland at the weekend?
Well, they've obviously win the game, not pick up any injuries, I think is important looking ahead to Scotland. Obviously, they'll be hoping that, Robbie Henshaw, Gibson Park, Furlong, these guys will be back in the mix for the last two games of the championship. They have a break after Italy. A good performance is being like, I would be of the opinion that this impression that some people may think that you've got to go to Italy and win by 30, 40 points. Anything less, it was always a potential banana skin. If you don't get a big score there, you get a lot of criticism. But they showed what they could do against France and how they could frustrate France. I think Ireland are obviously up and running. They've had two really good performances in the first two games. They've got to get the machine kind of moving again, and they have that ability. But I think they're going to be tested a little bit with real kind of in-your-face physicality and passion. Ireland are a massive scout for Italy on Saturday, so I suspect it'll take time. It'll take 60, 70 minutes, and even at that, there's no guarantees. I think I genuinely think that this Italian team is very, very good side. They got out muscle a little bit in Twickenham. I think they look back. Their discipline was poor at times. They gave England opportunities to go after them in the maul. They played some very good rugby. So Ireland have got to be patient. I think 15, 20-point win would be, really good. Obviously, anything bigger than that is great. You'd love to go there and get a bonus point win and get a good scoreline in case it comes down to points difference at the end. But I think a good performance is defensively as well, that we don't give up soft scores and make errors and mistakes. So Matt probably knows better than I do as a coach. This is a tricky game. It's a game that if you're not tuned in, if your head is not on ready for it, it can be difficult. So you're kind of splitting hairs, thinking, well, we've got to win by a big score for it to be a positive performance. You can still get a really positive performance. I think a bonus point win would be really satisfactory, and limit the mistakes and be strong defensively.
And Matt, they have a big boost themselves. They welcome back Paolo Garbisi for the first time in this tournament. We've seen how good he has been before. Tommaso Allen has done quite well, but Garbisi offers something different, doesn't he?
Yeah. Tommaso Allen has really improved. I thought he was very competent in his performances. If he and to Alan's point, if he had have kicked the penalty on, I think it was the 74th minute against France, and it missed by centimetres, then Italy got a penalty on the 79th minute in front. And if you had to kick that first one, Italy kicked that one, they beat France. Now, they'd missed it, so they were 4 points behind, so they went for touch, and it failed, and they lost. But that's how close they came to France with Alan there. Now, you bring Garbisi back into it. He is an excellent player. He's a superb kicker of the ball off the tee and out of hand. Plus, he does exactly what I said Ross Byrne has learned. He can take the ball to the line, square up, and be a threat, and bring other players, invite other players, attacking talents into the game. And then when you've got Capuzzo at fullback, who is this diminutive, fast-moving, fast-stepping joy to watch, that starts changing the dimensions of this game. Because a feature to me of this Italian side, probably the last two games of last year's Six Nations, maybe the three, but I'd say definitely the last two, they started to look more confident with the ball in hand. They started to have a structure of attack that you could see. You could say, well, it's not just passing to a forward and he's smashing it up. They've got a system that they're playing, and they're comfortable with that system, and they can keep that system going for 7-8 phases. Now, we couldn't say that about Italy for many, many years. Second half against England at Twickenham, we saw that. We saw them get control of their discipline. As Alan said, they were very poor in the first half. Poor scrummaging was a different story. I thought the referee got a lot of things wrong, but they certainly didn't defend the ball well, and they gave away a lot of penalties. Once they stopped that, they started to trouble England and scored two lovely tries. So you add in the factors of these extra players with extra talent coming back into the squad, and the fact that they are at home and they pushed France very close. This is a tough game. I think mentally, like what Alan said, mentally the hard part about going to Rome is you're going to a beautiful city, you're going to the Eternal City. You drive into the game and there's the Colosseum and there's the Forum. Everyone's got cameras out on the way to the game. You're saying, boys, put the cameras away. You've got to play a game of rugby. And you go to the Olympic Stadium and it's got a running track around it. It's 100,000 plus seats and there might be 40, 50,000 there. The atmosphere is not like the Aviva the week before. They're all factors that diminish performance of the away team, whereas the home team are emboldened by that. So the Italian fixture away is always tricky. It's never an easy day. And people, Alan's experience, if you haven't experienced it, people always say, just go and beat them by 40. Those days, right now, those days are over. So it's a good Italian side that are going to, and as well, defend better than they have done. And Ireland are going to have to be at their best. And I think it's a one score. A one score is a good day. A one score win by Ireland is a good day. A two score win is a very good day. I've got a lot of respect for this new Italian team.
Interesting stuff. And I think, if I'm right, we have the very man, Sebastian Negri, just chatting how Italy are running from everywhere. Sebastian, firstly, great to have you. How are you keeping?
Yes, all good. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Hi, Sebastian. How are you?
Hi, Sebastian.
Good.
How much are you looking forward to the weekend, and what can we expect from Italy?
Yeah, obviously really excited for opportunity. Listen, we know that Ireland are a top team, best in the world at the moment. So, yeah, it's going to be a difficult test, but we're looking forward to the challenge. And I think, we let ourselves down a little bit against England in the first 20, 30 minutes. So, we want to put that right, try and start well. And we've been working on a few things this week. Don't want to give too much away, but yeah, really excited.
Matt was actually just saying, Seb, before you come on against France, how you were running it from pretty deep. Is that something which has obviously been built from the coaches down? Is that something we can maybe see on Saturday as well?
Yeah, for sure. Listen, I think we're building our own identity under Kieran. We want to be courageous in the way we play. And listen, I've been in the system long enough now to know that we can't just keep doing the same thing because, we've been under the pump the last, I'm going to say 10 years. So something has to change. And, under Kieran, I think we've got a new identity. We want to gain respect and credibility back in this group. And, I think we've shown parts of that in the first two rounds. A few more people are saying that we're playing a good brand of rugby. And I think, if we can get that respect and credibility back from everyone, I think that's a good first step. But we can only do that through performance and the way we play. So, it's a good place to be at the moment. Still lots to work on, but super excited for this weekend.
We were also chatting about Paolo Garbisi coming back in. Tomas Allen has done well, but what has Paolo brought this week, and how good is it to have him back out there at the weekend? Yeah,
I think it's really important, not only in that case at 10, but we're starting to build a little bit more depth in certain positions. I think Tommy's done a really good job over the last two games. But, Paolo comes in exciting. I think he's a good young, probably could be world class. He's obviously been out for a while, but really excited to have him back. Adds another dimension to our exit, with the left foot. So that's also important. But there's no doubt about his character and his quality. And really looking forward to seeing how he goes. But he's been really good this week. He's looking good in training, looking sharp. So he'll definitely add something to our attack.
And what about this Ireland team? Need I say anything how good they are at the moment? But Seb, how do you try and nullify them? What are you going to go out there and try and stop them? What have you been so impressed, I suppose, ultimately by them over the last year or so, even more than that?
I think, their speed of ball. I think that's something we have to try and target and slow down. So the breakdown is going to be massively important. They've got options all over the field, threats all over the field. But it all starts up front. I think, physically we have to get in their faces and try and slow their ball down, because I think, as soon as they get on top of you and start getting some momentum and rhythm, they're very difficult to play against. Obviously, I've played against them in the past, and just something as you notice as a player is that they're very, very clinical in what they do, and also so quick and decisive. So, I think the breakdown is going to be hugely important this week.
Sebastian, it was brilliant to have you on. I'm a little bit before your time, but I played against Italy many times, and I always felt that it was going to be a physical game. You were going to get a lot of emotion. And sometimes that emotion went against the Italian sides that I played.
Yeah.
And I kind of think you need to get the balance of that right. But I think you've earned the respect. You mentioned that with your performances in November, beating Wales in the Six Nations last year. And people want to see Italy back. How important is it to get the emotional balance right? That you're controlled, your discipline is good, you're making good decisions. Because that didn't always happen. And it was an area we felt that, okay, the Italians were going to come out, they were going to be really passionate, but they were going to be, that passion was going to kind of impinge their performance.
Yeah. Alan, I really agree with what you're saying. I think it's something that Kieran touches on a few times. He's obviously come from New Zealand, so he's experienced it sort of firsthand when he was with Benetton and now with Italy. It's something that we got to control, because at the end of the day, if you look at our discipline throughout the last couple of years, it's been really poor. We're one of the most penalised teams, especially in the Six Nations. But if you've seen the last sort of 12 to 18 months, our discipline's been really good. Yes, it wasn't good last week and we were punished for it. But, if we stick around giving away 7 or 8 penalties, like we were doing in November and the back end of the Six Nations last year, we're in the fight and we remain in games. So that's definitely something that, that emotion and passion, you can't go over the top. And if you keep disciplined, it keeps us in the game. So that's definitely something that we talk about a lot. I think it's something that's getting a bit better because, like you said, I've also experienced it a few years ago where, you're so pumped up after the national anthem, you give away stupid penalties, and sometimes that emotion sort of, goes over the top. So I agree with you there. And I still think it's something that we got to keep working on, because if we can have a good balance between the emotion that we bring to a game, which is always going to be there with the sort of Italian side, if we can keep a balance between that and performing, and that's a dangerous weapon to have. So yeah, I agree with you. I think it's something that we definitely got to keep working at, but we're making strides forward in that area.
Yeah, and I think the top teams obviously punish you, don't they? If that penalty count is over 10, they punish you. England did a little bit to you in that game in Twickenham, but you still need a bit of fight and a bit of old school to get stuck into the opposition, but it's getting that balance right. I'm not going to ask any more questions. I just want to say your back row is outstanding. I played there, Canone and Lamaro, 2 brilliant players. So if I was analysing playing against Sebastian Negri, Canone and Lamaro, I know I'd have a busy day against you guys. So look, good luck. And as I said, thanks for coming on as well.
Matt, do you want to come in?
Absolute pleasure. Thanks so much.
Sebastian, I think great to have you on, mate. Great to chat with you.
Thanks, Matt.
Something I've really noticed, Sebastian, the last probably the second last game of the Six Nations last year and through to now is how comfortable your team is in attack now with a system that's a multiplayer system. There's forwards passing the backs passing the forwards, and how you'll be able to hold that system together multiple phases. Second half against England, you were really good. Against France for much of the game, you were fantastic. Obviously, you've got some individuals there that can do some brilliance, but it's the team framework in attack that I'm observing has changed or has clicked into place. Is that a fair observation? Is that something that you feel as a participator in the system?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think I think it was against France. We talked about sort of the first half and not doing our roles properly, and then we changed a little bit at halftime, and Kieran, I remember coming into the halftime break and also before games, how much he just focuses on delivering your role as an individual, because as a collective, if you deliver your own role and you work and you study your own job, the system's there for everyone to sort of succeed, I guess. So that's a massive area that we've been focusing on. It's all about learning your role and trying to execute it to the best of your ability. I think the one time on an exit, I got my role wrong and the whole system sort of went out of shape just because I didn't do my role properly. Fast forward the next week, I do my role properly and we make half a line break. So it's just small little details like that we're really focusing on in a group. And to be fair, that's something that Kieran's touched on and keeps touching on. And I think we also relations of ourselves and as a group that we do our homework, we study the
Need 50p in the meter.
Seb, I think we may have lost you with the Wi-Fi. Are you still there? Well, I think as you say, Matt, we need 50p back in that meter. But it is great to get such a good insight. We may get him back, we may not. But you can tell even there from his facial expression, they're a pretty confident side and they're definitely growing.
Yeah, they look.
Am I back?
Solid.
Am I back?
Oh, well, you're back. You're back,
Seb.
Seb. You're back. Can you hear us okay?
I think the Irish have arrived in Rome.
Sabotage, mate. Sabotage.
No, we were just saying, Seb, even we can tell how confident you are as a team, the way you're speaking. There's definitely, obviously, your belief last year beating the likes of Australia, but there definitely must be a lot of belief in there.
Yeah, like I said, it's a great environment to be in at the moment. We're really enjoying, a really good place to be, and hopefully we can continue putting in good performances. And yeah, like I said, looking forward to Saturday. We know it's going to be tough. Every game is at this level, but yeah, we're super excited. And like I said, also before, it's a pleasure to be on the show.
I think he has wrapped up.
He's given us enough anyway, Stuart. I think it's brilliant to have him on and to be relaxed and excited about playing for Italy and probably the feel good factor that they have. I still think they're on a journey. They've got to get better and improve. But I like the fact that he mentions the word detail a lot. And I think if you look at the top sides in international rugby, it's just all the small things, the small pieces of the game that are really important, like your breakdown, your set piece, your delivery, catch pass stuff, all the stuff that sometimes we take for granted. And, we see how good Ireland have been in that area. And obviously the challenge for them is to keep going and continue that. And it's the amount of pressure you receive from the opposition. Can you still execute? So, it's good to see them back. I think, obviously, Wales wouldn't have been pleased that they were the ones that allowed the Italians break the duck. It was over 30 games that they'd lost in the Six Nations last year. But November proved that they're on the right track. They beat Samoa and they beat Australia as well. So, and that performance against France. So it's not going to be an easy game for Ireland on Saturday.
No one, even though he can't hear us because he's off there, we must say a big thanks to Seb Negri for coming on. It's great to have him. Matt, if we move it on, Wales v England obviously have their troubles, still going through their troubles, Wales, but we do have a match, which is great. And hopefully next week, all the contracts and all those situations are sorted. Seems to be a lot more to it, obviously, as we know. But there is a game, and I don't know how much preparation they've done, but it's going to be a big afternoon for them.
Yeah, very interesting. He's recalled the old trips, which I always thought he would. I think I'm talking about Gatland there with Wales. Alan Wynne-Jones come back, Faletau's back, Tupirik's back. Interesting, he's dropped bigger to the bench and brought a Williams, one of a whole lot of them in that team up to start. Owen Williams. I actually think that was always part of his plan. Alan Wynne-Jones and these guys are not going to play every game between now and the World Cup. They're going to play selected games, give them a break, their bodies to recover. And there were some injuries in there as well. I believe Tupirik went off with an injury against Ireland in round one. But look, and it's a change back row. Richards on there is in with Tupirik and Faletau. He's brought a young guy, Mason Grady, uncapped into the centres. But this is still the question is not even the players at the moment. It's the whole Welsh environment that's the problem. Obviously, the massive problems culturally within the Welsh Rugby Union, the financial problems, the contractual problems with the players, the stress that is putting on the players, the distraction it puts on the players. Then you get to the team and their attack is a reflection of their nation at the moment. It's a mess. It's not connected. It's not doing anything that's creative and that's making progress. Alan and Dave called the brilliantly as always the Scotland-Wales game, and how they made that first half sound exciting must have been a challenge for them. It was horrific. It was horrific. And we were sitting, I got to say, Al,
we'll take your bias.
I think we've only got 10 minutes at half time. We don't have to talk about it. You did. The second half.
I take your bias compliment there, Matt. Thank you.
It was a compliment. It was a compliment, mate.
It's a biased one, though, because we're all into one team, so thank you.
It was a compliment. It wasn't an exciting first half. Scotland were exciting in the second half. They played some great rugby, but Wales continued to be totally inaccurate. Look, there are miracles in rugby. There are days teams stand up and, for whatever reason, overcome great odds. This is not a great England team. They are not playing great rugby. But I can't see a way Wales can win this. There has to be, unless there's cards involved. It's sad. It's not a pleasant thing to talk about, because I have great respect for Welsh rugby, but there's nothing about the whole system there that gives you anything but sadness is what I feel for it at the moment.
Yeah, it is pretty sad. Alan, Ken Owens saying they're the laughing stock of rugby and things need to change.
Yeah, and I have a great deal of respect for Ken Owens. I think he's very forthright in what he says, and he's honest, and he's like that as a player. He's a great fella, a really, really likable fella, tough as nails on the field. And they've all struggled with this, I'm sure. It's been a really big distraction and a worry for so many players, not just the international guys, but the other players in the regions who are worried about contracts and their futures. So I think everybody within, rugby, world rugby, has been paying attention to this story and really kind of showing empathy and compassion to what's going on, because we're blessed in Ireland here, and I experienced it. Matt did, as well as a coach. The system here and the support you get from the RFU, it's second to none. Even during the pandemic, the Irish players here, they had to take a pay cut, but obviously a strain on the RFU and for every union in the World Rugby, but because it's a very strong foundation financially and from a systems point of view here in Ireland, it was able to survive that and weather the storm and generate funds again and keep sponsors on board and all that kind of stuff. So it's very, very multi-layered, and Wales, this has been going on for a long time in Wales, uncertainty, financial issues, and you just don't have a magic wand that you can go out and say, well, we're going to generate millions from here, there, and everywhere. It takes time, but there's so much history, pride, and wonderful kind of joy in Welsh rugby and the history of it, and the amount of wonderful players they produce. They're synonymous with, the Six Nations and Grand Slams and just great history to the place. So it's sad, and I think that's what he feels, Ken Owens, and it has been. If you're in that situation, you feel that it is a bit of a joke that it's come to this, and it shouldn't have come to this. I could never see. Obviously, disputes happen, and probably the only dispute I can remember in my career of being with Ireland was probably match fees and just trying to agree match fees. We'd always have a representative, some of the senior players who would speak with the union, work with them. A little bit unsettling when Rugby Players Ireland started off, and there was uncertainty about the collaboration between the two. But all those things were just minor little bumps, and they got sorted out pretty quickly. There was no dirty laundry in public. This, you feel, has just kind of washed itself out in public, and it's been very upsetting for everybody. And none of us who love the game of rugby have enjoyed seeing any of this, because, as I said before, I have many great friends in Welsh rugby, and I had great tussles and matches against Wales and against all the regions there as well. So thankfully, the match goes ahead, and there is an agreement in place, I believe. Hopefully, there still possibly could be doubts about their next match, whether they'll play or not. But an agreement in place is helpful, and that the players have decided to go out and play. The catastrophic effect, and we said it last week, of no match going ahead is millions and millions and millions of pounds that would be lost in revenue. So at least they're in a better position now that they get the game to go ahead. What would be kind of an incredible scenario here for Wales is if they were to win the game. I think the Welsh public and Welsh fans must be exhausted and really deflated by the whole saga as well. So no one better to come to town than England, and their performances and results in recent years against England have been very strong and very good. So we're going to be there, and I'm sure the atmosphere is going to be incredible. But they've still got to go out and perform. He's gone back for some experience again in Tipuric and Fallow and Alan Wynne-Jones. Halfpenny back is a boost for him. And he's still mixing and matching as well, with some young guys getting experience. So even though all the doom and gloom is there, and even though they had 2 bad results in the first 2 games, there's guys getting exposed here, and I think they're very good players. Mason Grady's a very good player as well. He's over 17 stone. He's 6'4" or 5. He's a bit of a specimen, really, and Joe Hawkins, another good player. Jack Morgan, these guys, Tommy Raffel, young players that have come through. Jenkins in the second row, Chunza. So they could end up at the end of the Six Nations with 6 or 7 guys who are 21, 22, who've got exposure. And I think they have a big future, those guys, in international rugby. So it's been a tough time for them, but glad that the game is going ahead. And England, beware, because the place will be rocking on Saturday.
Yeah, definitely will be rocking. What a place it is to go and play rugby. Matt, if we move on to the final game, Scotland going for 3 wins out of 3. Going to Paris, you've always given them a chance.
I think you've got us, Stu. Well, we can only, I always say you got to give me evidence. And 2 years ago they beat France in Paris. So, that was COVID. It was an empty stadium, but they beat England away and France away. That year they lost to Wales at home. Now they beaten England, and they got the old monkey off the back. Since 1986 they'd lost every game after they'd beaten England, and they played poorly the first half. But give them credit, they were excellent in the second half. They scored some great tries. Finn Russell was absolutely on fire. Some of his passing and kicking was just sumptuous. He's always had the talent, but sometimes he hasn't had the temperament. And just right now, he seems to be having both in place, because he's not overplaying his hand, which would be an accusation a lot of us could make against him when he's playing for Racing. He just forces things, and I think he does it for Scotland as well. He didn't last week. However, so they've got a chance. So we shouldn't come out and say there's no chance. That's not going to happen. That's not right. But France, after losing to Ireland, I can tell you the whole country here is hurting. But the general feeling is what I felt is that in the long run, they'll do them the world of good. Going into the World Cup at home with a bit of a bloody nose means you've got to reset things, get a bit angry, and go at it again. That you haven't got the World Cup in your hands until you got the World Cup in your hands. So I think this is a really good refocus point. So I would expect a much more powerful, I shouldn't say powerful. Look, France were fantastic against Ireland. The stats that Ireland produced, France should never have been in that game. And Alan knows that they were in that game until the last 5 minutes. Once that second try was scored. And if James Lowe's try had been ruled correctly, they're right in that game. So even though Ireland were the far better team on the day, France were in that. France are going to go home to the Stade de France. They've got 2 weeks to lick their wounds. He's going to pick a full side. I reckon there'll be a couple of changes. Give some guys a go. Tell them, you haven't got this jersey forever. You've got it for one game at a time. And I actually think it's going to be a really great game of rugby. A really great game. All 3 are going to be great games, I think, on the weekend. Because you don't know with how Wales going to come out. England have been quite poor. Just wouldn't it be lovely to see a toe-to-toe contest there of a slugfest? Two of these that detest each other, bashing each other. I'd be great. I'd pay money for that. It'd be really good. And then in Paris, the Scots played beautiful rugby, and with the ball in hand, and so do the French. So I think it's a weekend that's just going to keep giving so much entertainment, so much fun, and really all sides. Probably the Italians are the least, but all sides have got a shot at winning this, which I think is really. Isn't that healthy for the competition? We haven't been able to say that for the last few years. I think that's really great for the championship.
Yeah, Quinny, last one on France-Scotland. Do you think the French will have learned a lot from that Ireland game and really will be a lot more ruthless against Scotland?
Well, that will be their intention anyway, for sure, because I think they obviously had they were disappointed with what happened in Rome as well. I think Sean Edwards came out and spoke about their discipline and their work rate and their energy and just the overall performance, as did Galtier. And so they were disappointed. They showed, obviously, in that first half was incredible against Ireland. For both sides were brilliant. But Matt is right. They were in that game till Gary Ringrose scores near the end, and Ireland could never sit back and relax at any stage, even though they put a mammoth effort in. And I just thought there tactically they got so much right that day, Ireland. But France will learn from that. And I think it's the first time where France kind of drifted away from their strengths of trying to win territory and ping teams back and really go after them in the attack zone. France started, trying to run out of their own half a little bit and, took some chances, made some errors and mistakes, and Ireland punished them. So, even after the penalty try, straight from the kickoff, Ireland win it back and they end up scoring. So there's certain parts of that game that they will be very disappointed in. I don't think there'll be any sort of panic. I think, as Matt said, it's no surprise that, they'll want a reaction to French public. This is a super French side. They have a couple of players out like Ireland have. They have such an array of talent that they can choose from. And I think it'll do them the world of good in the long run that they've had this little bit of a glitch and a setback. So that could be bad news for Scotland. The flip side of that is Scotland are full of confidence and they're a dangerous side. And when they get their tails up, if you allow them and if they get enough quality possession, they can hurt you and they can cause you problems. And that will be the case not just on Sunday, but when they play Ireland in a few weeks as well. This Scottish side are a good Scottish side. They have a bit of steel about them, and I think they'll be excited about going to Paris. But I do expect France will be much better. And for any team worldwide now at the moment to beat France, even for Ireland to go there, and you asked the question there, is it a different result in Paris if Ireland are playing them? Well, it's harder. Scotland are going to have to bring their A game for 80 minutes to beat this French side on Sunday.
Well, I always ask Alan his predictions first, but Matt, this time you're up. I think you've told me, but I want to get them officially.
Ireland and France is the easy ones.
Right.
Or easier. Wales, England, wow. Look, on form, you got to say England playing a horrid brand of rugby will endure. But I really want Wales to win. I really hope Wales can get it together and put in a performance that lifts their country and stops all the negative talk. But I don't have any evidence to back that up. So I've got to say I think England will win. I hope I'm wrong. But
you've got your Welsh hat on. And as for you, Alan?
Yeah, I'm going to go Italy, Wales, France.
Italy, Wales, France.
Straight in.
Yeah. I just, look, Matt makes a very relevant point. England are better placed at the moment than Wales and should.
Have I got that right? Italy to beat Ireland on?
Italy. L.
No, sorry, mistake.
Oh, there you go. Hang on.
I was wondering.
Press the reset button.
I had two goes at that on.
What's Quinny got into? What information have you got that we haven't got?
I have to hit my head a few times there. My apologies. I was wondering why your reaction was so kind of bemused. No, Ireland, Wales, France. Sorry. Jeez, well, I tripped myself up there, but actually maybe too many head knocks. But
yeah, I thought Sebastian would maybe give you a few quid there. Yeah. Right, lads, I must thank Matt, Alan, and Seb, and make sure you tune in Saturday at 4:15 is the big one. Wales take on England. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Thanks,